But this week's topic, or the topic for this conversation, is going to be sleep and kind of the benefits, the reasons why we need it, all that good stuff, which most of us should probably know, but inevitably most of us, as we were just joking about, don't get enough of it and or consider it to be overrated. So full disclosure, we're trying to decide how long to talk about some of these topics. So I stole an idea from Jason Kalipa and his AMRAP Mentality and or his Business of Fitness podcast, where they set a timer and they basically call it an AMRAP. So we're going to set a timer for 20 minutes and we're going to attempt to discuss attempt. If we nap in between, that's just to fill time. But yeah, we're going to talk about the topic of sleep and just the various aspects that it pertains to the therapy world, the training world, and for that matter, life in general. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, and we're off.
So, I'm trying to prepare. Story time. I stole this from a TED Talk on sleep, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. I'm going to probably credit and put it in the comments later on.
You got better sleep last night.
I probably remember. That was another thing. I didn't sleep last night, so that's why I think I forgot his name. But he looked well rested in the TED Talk at least. I think he had a good night's sleep. But he was talking about the story about going on a college campus and seeing a bunch of students going around and visiting the campus and seeing all of them eating junk food. They're all loving junk food. They love this whole campus. It was weird. They're all having junk food. They're all eating snacks and treats. It was kind of odd. It wasn't like a great match. So, well, I went to another campus. Everyone was smoking. It was great. Got along with them. Really got along with the campus. Felt a good vibe. Felt like the curriculum was going to be good. But everyone was smoking. Went to a third campus. And he said, wow, everyone's kind of dozing, tired, falling asleep in libraries, pulling all-nighters. They're all kind of half days. They're sleeping in classes. And he said, wow, we would find it strange that we'd see all smokers and all people eating junk food. But to have people sleeping and not feeling well, that was kind of accepted in school and in other places. So maybe we have to rethink the impact of sleep on health and maybe embrace that just as much as we think junk food and cigarettes are something that probably we shouldn't, or we know we shouldn't have. Sometimes we have. Maybe not cigarettes, junk food. But I thought it was a good analogy, a good kind of looking at it. Maybe this is something that we kind of all see that people brag about. I did a 4-hour, I did an all-nighter, but they won't brag about eating a ton of chips and smoking a whole bunch of packs of cigarettes and all that. So I thought it was an interesting way of looking at sleep, and I think maybe we don't always appreciate that. So I think we're going to kick it off and give a story. So yeah, it's very tolerant of my story. So what do you think about
this? This is your first story. I've never heard any.
Remember story?
I've not heard any of the other stories, so I'll have to digress until I've heard a couple more.
Couple more stories? Okay.
No, I mean, I think sleep is probably one of the, next to hydration in our world, in the fitness space, I think it's probably one of the most overlooked aspects of lifestyle, really, right? So, people come in, they're looking to get in shape, or they're looking to rehab an injury, or, all of these different things. And when you look at load, right, the amount of stress they come to the table with before they even work out,
right,
it's so high, oftentimes because they're getting so little sleep, so little hydration, so many of those other things outside of here that they can control, they're electing not to control. And I don't know if it's a voluntary thing or if it's a subconscious thing. I've been very aware of it lately because the truth of the matter is my days start very early and sometimes end very late. And for tremendous periods of time, I'm stuck with, oh my God, I just want to nap. And somebody made the comment in another context that, if you need a nap during the day, is it because you're really tired or because you're not enjoying something that you're doing? And so I took a step back, and I know I enjoy what I'm doing. So the reality was I clearly was deficient in what I was getting at night. And so I had to start to look at that a little bit and assess for myself whether I was sleeping properly. And that's something that I've been trying to work on a lot for my own purposes. But
right, yeah, it's something I struggle with. I'm trying to get a little something extra done, and I bring it into the bedroom. The thing they tell you, don't bring your work, don't bring a book that's really stimulating, or do something very stimulating and engaging just before you go to bed. And I struggle with that because I know that has some impact on how I sleep. And I'm just trying to get a little more work done. It definitely disrupts the sleep.
Absolutely.
So this is the whole nighttime routine, caffeine. And what I have done is I've stopped caffeine probably by, I would say, 12 o'clock. And that's kind of made a big impact.
Sure.
Any kind of stimulant. I don't drink soda. I did try a Jolt one time when I went to the city. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that stimulates. That stimulates a lot. It's dizziness. So Yeah, so I think that the sleep component is something that I kind of think of as diet. You're talking about hydration,
Absolutely.
diet, sleep, exercise. Those three things I kind of look at. And then we talk about not a diet, but like healthy eating, I should say. We talk about that a lot. We don't talk about sleep as much. Just to your point.
Sure. And again, I think it's very easy to fall into a trap in this space, right? So in the health and fitness space, to fall into this trap of, people want to know like, hey, what supplements do I need to take to lose weight, or, to put on muscle, or, what's the quick fix for what my problem is? And the reality is, first and foremost, there is no quick fix, right? So we say that all the time, but after a while, it's like talking to a wall because no one really wants to hear that. But the easiest thing that I think somebody can do to lose weight, add muscle, improve their overall quality of life is start to focus on sleep, right? If you're coming to the table deficient there, it almost doesn't matter what else we do. And I'm sure you see it in the therapy arena, right? If somebody's hurt, well, first and foremost, you probably trace some element of that injury to fatigue, right? Stress that they weren't able to handle in whatever moment that their body gave in. But now their recovery is also going to be predicated on how much sleep and what's the quality of the sleep they're getting. So when they come for treatment, they're actually getting the most out of that treatment. Because you can only help a person so much. If they can't help themselves, that's the first step.
Funny, I had a guy literally today. So I was talking about us talking about this topic, and he just has a newborn. It's his second newborn, so now it's not now it's not 2-on-1. It's man-to-man coverage with his kids. You got a younger child that's 4 or 5, and then a newborn. And it's great. IBM actually has this great thing where they actually give a paternal, and where the father can also stay home. And I think it's a wonderful thing and all that. But he was saying that with my recovery, been maybe a little bit smoother if I was sleeping through the night. And I said, I'm sure it would be. I can't tell you how much, what's the percentage, but it's definitely something. You know what I think about sleep?
What do you think?
You probably don't know. This is riveting. I think about sleep as it's so passive. It's so, yes, you start it, but it's not something you're doing. It's a very passive, okay, just lie down, decompress, do 7 situations, maybe it's not completely passive, but you're sleeping, do something active, you're taking a supplement, you're taking hydration, you're working harder. I don't think it's as evident of the impact except for the starting of the process. It's hard to do. I don't know.
Well, and I think that's a mindset thing, right? So, as soon as you said it was passive and started to go down your explanation, not that I want to contradict or take a counterpoint, but I actually think it's more active than people give it credit, right? Like, and again, I'm guilty of it. So I used to be that person who, had FOMO, had to stay up and watch TV, all that other stuff. And then at the literally last minute would, fall asleep on a chair and wake up middle of the night wondering why I felt so lousy. But the reality is you can make it an active process by developing a sleep routine, by conditioning your environment so that you have a certain consistency, by establishing a pattern, what time you go to sleep, what time you get up, what do you cut out, at a certain time in the day because you know it's going to keep you up.
Right.
Shutting down your electronic devices early enough that the blue light isn't affecting you neurologically, or wearing those lenses now. I mean, I've seen a lot of companies out there that are offering glasses that have like the blue blocking lens, so you're no longer getting that overstimulation. But again, most of us are, to your point earlier, like taking work into the bedroom, right? Or reading something right before we go to sleep, or watching TV. I've tried to actually start reading where I have the mental energy, something that is not business related, not work related, but just pure enjoyment. But something that you can kind of use to wind down your brain. And I will literally read until I can't focus anymore on what I'm really trying to absorb. And then I know my mind is starting to get tired. And I literally have looked at the clock some nights and been like, wow, it's 8 o'clock, it's 8:30, but I have no reason to stay awake. I have to get up at 4, or in some cases I have to get up at 3. But what am I staying awake for? I'm only shortchanging myself tomorrow, right? What can't I, in this day and age, what can't I catch up on tomorrow? What can't I DVR? What can't I watch on my phone the next morning when I have the free time? I would actually rather now be alert and focused in the morning, because I find between the hours of 3 and probably 7 or 8 in the morning, I can get a tremendous amount of stuff done because I'm alert and rested and so forth. And so I've tried to establish that habit.
Yeah. It's definitely a habit, and it's definitely something you start getting tired of. It becomes something you don't think about. You accept it, and like I said, to form a habit, it takes a good 2 or 3 months. I definitely think it's something that probably after we talk about this, I'll probably try and restart my process and all that. But I got to tell you, the one evolution I had from undergrad to grad was, I said, listen, at a certain point, I don't know the material, I didn't know the material, I didn't do these overnights. I think it helped me a lot. I think I was more energized, and whatever I had at that point. I think some of the overnights I used to do as undergrad, I think I it was diminishing returns are actually become more negative. I couldn't remember the stuff that I kind of knew, or I wasn't as sure about it, and it was just kind of a foggy brain. Yeah, so yeah, I think it really.
Low power mode.
What happened?
Low power mode.
Just hit the battery. We're having low power mode here. 1 second. We're gonna hit our battery. That's our battery backup. Just hit
What do you
the
mean?
little power switch on the top. No, not the top. The battery that's on. There you go. Push that.
Push it where?
There's a button on there. We're gonna come right back. Let me go like this.
I did. Don't
All
turn it
right,
off.
and then just make sure this is in here like this, and then hit that. And let's see what it is.
You're back. You're back.
All right. We're getting better at this.
Maybe 0 for 2 on video.
I know, like, I'm really having trouble here.
No, I would agree. I mean, I think back to, what I didn't know as an undergrad, and obviously you think you know everything, but pulling an all-nighter, to your point earlier, was sort of a badge of courage, right? Like, how much could you do? And
Right.
you'd spend those early morning hours with friends, BSing and so forth. But I can remember very vividly finding out at the last minute that I had a final, I think it was my junior or my senior year of college. And so all of a sudden, like, the next morning, 8 o'clock, I had to sit for a final that I had no idea I had up until about midnight of that
That's one
night.
of my nightmares.
And I literally, it was linguistics of all things. Like, it was one of those classes that was supposed to be an easy A. And here I am trying to take notes and trying to figure out all this stuff. And literally, I remember falling asleep as I was writing. And I can't even remember how I did on that exam. I can't imagine I did very well. But
Oh my gosh.
what
I really have a nightmare of an undergrad. It's
Well,
a nightmare. I haven't studied for an exam. Yours is real. But
yeah,
full
no, mine was
clothed?
where I was fully clothed,
Okay.
yes. But yeah, and I remember thinking after I graduated college as an undergrad originally, I don't really think I learned anything. I learned how to regurgitate information, which was great, but outside of that, like, I did not have that conceptual understanding of the material because I was just simply cramming it in the night before, and that is just another byproduct of lack of sleep, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you need to be alert and be involved and so forth if you want to learn information, retain information, and use it. But again, when it comes to what we do, like, people tell me all the time, like, oh, what's the best diet to follow? What's the best this to do? What's the best that to do? And I've started to tell people, like, if you can't get 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night, we can talk about any diet you want. Like, it's not gonna work.
Right.
So what diet do you want to do? Like, you pick it out of a hat and we'll follow it. Like, sleep to me is almost like a supplement. Like, if you want the best supplement you can get your hands on, it's your pillow. It's that sleep at night.
Yeah, it's funny when we talked in a rehab setting, patients will be coming off of surgery or just having a painful state, let's say sciatica or back pain, and I say, I just can't get to sleep. And it's one of the few times I say, if it's that consistent and I can't, I say, listen, take a medication. It's hopefully for short term. Like, take something. You got to get some kind of sleep. And these are people that are, I'm not going to extreme examples here. At a certain point, obviously, we're trying to get people to transition off, and I can't recommend. I'd say ask your doctor about this, but you really, you need that sleep recovery. I said you got to get something. I know it's not the same quality because it's induced by meds, but drop that pain down so you can get some kind of sleep. And that's one of my mantras. I really believe that's so important. And people are saying, I don't want to take meds. I said, well, I get that, but right now it's a temporary solution to allow you to sleep, kind of re-energize, more active in your care, and that's one of the things I feel strongly about. Yes, it's medically induced. It's helpful, but it's something that in the short term is important.
I agree, and obviously I'm by no means in an area where I'm going to be recommending that people take anything. I mean, I have used very successfully certain sleep aids that are, concentrated doses of magnesium, selenium, zinc, those types of things, which obviously can help. They're not going to put you to sleep, but they're going to kind of slow your body down a little bit and put you in a more relaxed state. And for me, it's never really been a problem with falling asleep. It's what happens when I wake up in the middle of the night and I need a drink of water, and now my mind starts wandering, and all of a sudden my heart starts racing, and now I've got 8 million thoughts, and I just lay and I toss and I turn. Things like that have helped me typically get back to sleep, right? So I think that's equally important, so that you at least have that chance. Like, you're going to wake up, but you at least have that chance to get back to sleep. And so much of what we do, I mean, if you do an intervention on a patient this afternoon, if they don't get that sleep, all of that recovery is predicated on hormonal responses and things like that that are going to take place in these overnight hours. And the key windows in those overnight hours are, for most people, like that 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. window. So if you're laying awake, tossing and turning, staring at the ceiling, what have you, you're immediately in that moment where you should be recovering and you're actually not. And you need to be honest. Like, when you come to me at 5 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 in the morning to work out, like, you need to tell me, like, wow, I've been awake since 3. Why do you need to tell me that? Because I need to then be able to help you pick a better version of today's workout, so that we're not now putting you just unnecessarily over a cliff, right? Like you're already teetering on the brink.
Yeah.
If I push you off that cliff, now I'm potentially culpable for whatever reaction you have in the ensuing 24 hours. But we need to have an honest dialogue there, just like I'm sure somebody has to have an honest dialogue with you. If they come in, they're like, wow, Tom, I feel worse than I did yesterday. Okay, what's happened in the last 24 hours? And don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what I need to know.
It's kind of getting into that conversation, really that deep conversation is hard sometimes. You gotta know what's going on or what's stressing you. Because just be like, I got to bed and I say, well, what was going on here? Is it, you're in pain or what is going on? Yeah, that's a very important component. And it's interesting that 3 to 6. I wasn't sure about that. Thanks for
Sure.
Yeah, and that's it's funny because that's the time I really have probably raised trouble, like 2 or 3 if I'm gonna wake up. It's not going to sleep. I can go to sleep. It's really that disruptive sleep and kind of relaxing. You finally get to that point. You get to 5 in the morning, but you get up so early. 5 in the morning. He's like, I've been up for like 2 hours. It's like a lunch. I'm like, oh, I get stressed. I can't go to sleep, and then it's hard to make that stuff down. What I do is the meditation. Some meditation apps. My wife and I have been starting to do, like, for wake, even all of a sudden, oh wow, I guess she's having a hard time sleeping, and it really relaxes me.
Absolutely. And I was just going to make that comment. So when looking at what I've been trying to implement, so I finally had this epiphany, I don't know how many months ago it was now, but that was really a deciding factor. Like if I was going to get out in front of some things for myself, and I was going to practice what I preach, right? Because it's really easy to stand there and tell somebody, like, you need to sleep, and then, I'm guilty of not sleeping myself.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did start doing is actually, for my purposes, an app or a website, depending on how you want to find it, called ROM. So range of motion walk, or range of motion workout of the day. So what it is largely a mobility or flexibility minded type of a routine, but it's got a lot of yoga and probably Pilates-esque elements to it, right? So it's this nice combination of holding specific stretches or positions for extended periods of time, but then it's got nice therapeutic music. In some cases, the person walking you through the experience has that sort of melodic tone to his voice, so it's very soothing. But so you're not, like, I'm not big on meditation because I usually fall asleep. Like they're like, focus on the right dot, and next thing I know, it's snoring. But this keeps me engaged enough where I feel super relaxed, but I also feel like I've done something constructive because God knows I need to stretch, as most of us probably do at this point. So what I've tried to do is implement that, more or less one of the last things I do at night. So I've developed a little routine. I take this little sleep aid thing. I have a nighttime protein, which, different people believe in, different people feel works for them. But I'll be consuming those 2 things while I'm working my way through what's usually about a 20-minute routine.
That's not bad. That's like feasible.
And it finishes with what they call a rebound. So you literally are letting the routine soak in, clearing your mind, listening to the therapeutic noises. Sometimes it's the ocean or sounds of nature, stuff like that. And then, I might be awake for another half hour, maybe watch a little bit of TV, maybe journal, whatever the case is. But I'm usually pretty prepared to go to sleep. On the flip side, in the morning, I use that same routine to try to jumpstart my day.
Wow, that's interesting. I've never heard that.
Yes.
So you do a jumpstart?
I've been doing it both, right.
Oh wow, so you're doing the same, is it different as far as the awakening compared to sleep? It's the same
It's the same routine, so the routines aren't based on nighttime or daytime.
Okay.
They're putting it out there like you could do it any time during the day you want. And in fact, sometimes I'll do it in the middle of the day, actually. But for me, what I've found is that clearing the mind, dealing with the potential anxiety of the day, the stress of what might be coming down the pipeline, like having that already kind of dealt with. Yeah, you've already kind of dealt with it a little bit. You're right. Yeah. And so it's not lingering and hanging over you all day. And so I found that that's been a nice way to kind of add to the routine there.
I actually did this morning. I did a 10-minute meditation, not quite what you're talking about, but just simply just sitting there and working on breath and just slowing my breathing down, really getting a good fullness in it. I gotta tell you, that like set the tone for the morning. And I was like, kind of stressed, it's kind of a long day, and I was like, I'm just gonna try this, and I keep on trying to go back to it. I would say I want to do my exercise, my stretching, whatever, and then at the end do maybe like 5 or 10 minutes of meditation. But that's interesting at the start of the day. That really sets the tone.
Well, and it's interesting because I had been trying to follow a meditation app, and they recommended doing it in the morning, and I was like, who wants to meditate in the morning? It's like doing yoga when you wake up. Like, I didn't understand like why I'd want to do something that was seemingly so passive and relaxing, because it's like I just woke up to want to go back to sleep. But if you approach it from the right perspective, I think it's very helpful. So again, it comes back to mindset, but then it also comes back to quality of sleep, right? So growth hormone and all of those things that take place or are secreted predominantly while you're sleeping are so important that you get that quality, right? So if you've had a good hormonal cascade during the nighttime while you're sleeping, you're going to come out of that sleep a little bit better. Likewise, if you wake up in that 3 to 6 window, that's where cortisol levels tend to be the highest too, right? So now you're waking up where your body's already releasing a stress hormone. Now you're stressing yourself out because you're stressed in the first place. That's why you're awake, and it becomes this sort of vicious loop. And all of a sudden, now you finally. I mean, I used to get up sometimes at 3, 4 in the morning just because I couldn't sleep anymore. I'm like, this is miserable. But I was like, I'm not sleeping, so I might as well not lay here and convince myself that I'm going to.
Right. Just kind of fight it.
So getting up and actually starting to maybe take on some of what is that stressor can be helpful too.
That's true. Yeah, addressing the primary stressor, through talking about it, thinking what is really going on.
Right.
It takes a little while sometimes to figure that out.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes there's no perfect answer, but at least you can feel as though you're a little bit more in control of it, which I think is another big factor in people's stress.
No, absolutely.
And then when I look at the windows of sleep, I know the typical recommendations have always been like an 8-hour, period or what have you, and I've seen some people suggest 8.5 hours now.
Yeah, it's kind of gone up a little bit.
It has gone up. So the point that has always kind of struck me is, in theory, a REM cycle is an hour and a half, right? So if you're going to get through a full REM cycle, you want to wake up in those hour and a half increments, though, right? So in other words, what I mean by that is not that you want to wake up every hour and a half, but if I woke up at the 8-hour mark, I'm in the middle of a REM cycle.
Right.
So I may wake up in a period of deep sleep, which could explain why I feel like I can't get started all day. Right? Like if you've ever, I don't know if you've ever had it happen, I've had it happen in afternoon naps specifically, where I literally feel like something is trying to pull me back into sleep. It's a very weird feeling.
Yeah, it's like a sinking thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you set that alarm to wake you up after 8 hours, there's a very real likelihood that you're snapping yourself out of a deep sleep and are going to feel horrible all day. But if you've got 7.5 hours, now you're on the money, right? Because you're coming out of that sleep cycle.
At the right time, yeah.
Exactly. So there's a lot to be said for that, and I realize you lay down at, let's say, 8 o'clock hypothetically, it's going to probably take you about a half hour to fall asleep.
Right.
So you can't really set your alarm from 8 to 7.5 hours later because you need to buffer that extra half hour, right? So there's some timing that goes in there, but I guess my point being is that if you're willing to really take that on, like anything else, like a good therapy program or what have you, you lay that plan out and then you attack that plan or execute that plan, you can have a lot of success with it. If you just kind of fly blindly and just say, I'm going to go to sleep and wake up whenever I wake up.
Yeah, it's interesting. That would be hard for me. I would just happy to first start with your meditation and doing that.
Right.
But listen, if I had success with that and could really fine tune it, I just feel so much better.
Well, and it's like anything, right? So you got to pick little small increments too, I think, right? Like you can't attack everything at one time. I tell people all the time, they're like, what's the best diet? How do we work on my nutrition? Jokingly, somebody suggested ask them to floss their teeth for 30 days.
Right.
If you can't floss your teeth for 30 days, you can't follow my nutrition for 5 minutes, right?
That's kind of like what
you don't have the diligence to do it. So what you need to do is find little things you can do. So meditation maybe is the first one, or just committing to going to sleep at a certain time, or committing to waking up at a certain time, whatever it is.
I do that with home exercise.
Yeah.
Listen, why don't we just do 2? Just give me 2. If you come back in a week and you're really doing it, I'll give you more. Let's
Exactly.
do that too, so you don't give it up completely.
Exactly.
And then you take on little bits, little pieces, and it makes a difference. Yeah, it's just that commitment to it. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. Like I want to be excited to get this. Try and do this because I think it makes such a difference in your time. What do we got on time?
We're actually a little bit over. We're at 22 minutes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we'll get ready to wrap it up before
All
too
right.
long. But I was going to say, it'd be interesting, I think, for me, it would be curious to see, I don't know if you want to put the time into it, but to do it almost like a sleep study on your patient base. And not in the traditional sense of like bring them in and have them sleep in the clinic or anything like that, because I don't understand how sleep studies work, because if you had me,
too, actually.
but if you had me sleep in a weird room with all sorts of stuff hooked up to me, like I'm not going to sleep well. So like you're going to just prove that I don't sleep well because you got me in a weird place with all sorts of stuff on.
Now, I'm going to contradict Dan because I've done 2 sleep studies and I had the best night's sleep. All these wires attached to me, I think it literally got down to your sleep. Right? I literally was separated from everything. I didn't have anything. I didn't have the TV on. Maybe I just had wires attached to me. But no, I had a great night's sleep. But I didn't have TV on. There was a lot of things that were controlled.
Sure.
They said, you're going to bed now. But,
Sure.
But it's time to go.
Right.
Then you're going to wake up. So,
Well, and again, I think it's
it was to the point of like, it was a routine almost. Even
Right.
one night, and wow. And I'm
So
like,
I-
I gotta do that. I gotta get something that captures this.
I'd be curious to see, like, if you did as part of your in-doc, I don't know if you do, asking people about the quality of their sleep,
You know that?
rating it on a scale,
That's
having them sort of self-evaluate, like when you had the injury in question that you're here for,
Right.
what was your quality of sleep in the prior couple of weeks and or during that period where you got hurt,
Yes.
and just see like if we could tease out a correlation. I would be probably pretty confident to speculate that we would. As I would be pretty confident to speculate that when somebody strains something or pulls a muscle when they're working out with us, especially in the early part of the day, it's that very same phenomenon. Like they had a good night's sleep, their body wasn't ready, and they just threw that little extra bit of stress on top, and the body just said, "I'm done."
That's it. Interesting. Oh.
So if anybody wants to do a sleep study,
You want to sleep study, yeah. But I think I'm going to add, I think that's a great intake. In
Yeah.
fact, this guy that did the TED Talk said one of the intake forms for one of his physicians had, what's the quality of your sleep, to your point. And, when you led up to whatever, or just it's the average. So that, and I think maybe we're looking at do you think you have a good diet? Do you think, what's your diet like? What's your, that part of the overall kind of holistic wellness part.
Yeah. And I think
it's
even,
interesting,
I was gonna say, sorry to cut you off. Even on a regular like appointment by appointment basis, like I know I went out to a facility years ago. They're now Exos, but it was Athletes Performance, Mark Verstegen and company out in Tempe, and they're all over the country now. But they had their athletes every day fill out a quick 5 or 8 question survey.
Right.
What was your sleep like last night? What was your intake? Just a
Yeah.
handful of things. And it was some were quantitative and some were qualitative. And it was basically just saying like, hey, before we even start,
Right.
I need to know how you're feeling. Because if you're having a shitty day, I need to make sure that you don't go too far under those circumstances. And I think it could really affect, people's quality and output.
I've seen that. I won't talk any more on this, but I was just having a hard time night's sleep, and I said, I want to give myself something. So I walked on the treadmill, which was boring, and I'm like, it was actually, I felt like good, but I didn't do too much. It was the right balance for what I had for that day.
Sure.
So, well, I hope everyone got something out of this.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot from Dan. Dan clearly has a great grasp of the topic.
I love
I've gotten to know it. This is good. I'm going to read up more next time with this because it's interesting. I think I got to look into it more. But anyway, any other interesting topics you guys want us to cover, please put it in the comments. We'd love to hear, that's the most thing, something that's relevant to you guys. Kind of hopefully meet next week around the same time.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good one.
Till then.